you have a boyfriend. Like, you know the outline of him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you know the outline of your boyfriend. Okay. Now, if someone... now, it's dark, so all you see is a shadow. All you see is, like, them thing. But now your boyfriend has shrunk like a foot.
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
Hi, Rose.
Hey, Zax.
Today we're gonna be looking at another Cyrano de Bergerac remake.
Yes.
Because they can't stop making them. This is just a reminder, long time ago actually, we covered the movie #Roxy, which was a remake of Roxanne, which was a Steve Martin movie, and they're all based on Cyrano de Bergerac. I don't think I'm saying that right, but still.
We try our best.
Yeah. And this is a DCOM. It's called Let It Shine. Stars Tyler James Williams, Trevor Jackson, and Coco Jones. And I want to say it was like 2014, maybe 2012. I don't remember.
But lots of research for this.
Yeah. I just watched it. That's fine. So, as far as DCOMs go, it's fine. Like, it's not like Zapped or How to Build a Better Boy, where it just, like, makes no sense the more you think about it. Like, the story is fine. You know, they're redoing a book, a play, whatever. My issue is I realized in watching this, there are two issues. First, Cyrus, the main character, sucks. I realize my problem with a lot of protagonists are my problems with him. Okay. Two, I think this is, like, why I'm so, like, I feel like, based on things I've said in the past on different episodes, it sounds like I really just hate any adaptations or remakes in general. And that is not true. But I do think my problem with it is that it's always the same exact story, and it's like, I've seen it. I feel like there's opportunity for something new with this thing.
Okay, so can you give an example of a remake of a story that you do like? Because I have one in mind.
Okay, so a remake that I do like. Actually, I have to think for a second.
Okay, let me say mine. Maybe it'll jog your memory.
Yeah.
I really like She's the Man, which is
Yes.
an adaptation of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
Right. Okay, yeah. Actually, I love Cruel Intentions with his dangerous liaisons, and I like that because, you know, we're changing the period, and it's, like, different, I guess, you know? And it's very fun watching that whole sort of academy prep whatever. So that's one I like. And again, one I don't like, and I've said this before, I do not like the Lion King remake.
Oh, I do.
And like, that's fine. I don't fault you for that.
Lots of other people do.
Yeah, there are things I definitely liked in it. Like, I love Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa. Like, that was it for me.
I think the casting was really good. Nobody talks about the casting. They're just like,
I feel like
the animation.
Part of my issue is the casting in some places. Okay, I love Donald Glover, but Beyonce, I'm sorry, is just... I don't believe her in anything I've ever seen her in. Like, I love her. She has a beautiful voice. I'm glad she was singing. I watched Black is King after. That was, like, inspired by Lion King. She's great. But at the same time, when they're singing Can You Feel the Love Tonight, I'm like, you don't love him. So, like, I just didn't buy it. And I feel like that's part of my problem. Is, like, Disney used to, like, not rely so much on star power.
Well, they
but
did.
I get that when...
They did for, like, the singing roles, though. Because they're casting people who are the voice actors and the singers because they're easier to find. I don't know. But they used to cast different voice actors than singers. And they would always have, like...
Yeah.
Like, Donny Osmond was... What's his name?
Yeah, it was Shay. Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, and I get that. And, like, I'm not even saying it's not a bad... Like, it's not Disney's fault even. It's just why I don't vibe with it. Because it's also just because I'm older. Like, the old Lion King, like, 4-year-old me didn't really, like, get the concept of who James Earl Jones or Jeremy Irons were. You know?
Yeah.
But, like, I'm watching this and I also just prefer, like, cartoon style. So,
I mean,
like,
I do too, but...
I do, it's not that I mind the animation, because I appreciate what they were going for. It was, like, it's a spectacular and impressive feat they acquired. It just felt like, I don't know, like, it was just, like, the same, it was just, like, they deep faked the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was, like, it's, like, the same. And then things that I liked, that I was like, ooh, they're gonna do this thing. They changed it completely, and I was like, oh. I was trying to, like, be on board with you, but we're incompatible, because, like, when I want to go left, you go right, Lion King.
But they did cast some Broadway people, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And they did, I don't know. Maybe it's just my nostalgia. I saw The Lion King live, and that made me cry. And then seeing like the Circle of Life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, but
yeah.
and then speaking of adaptations and remakes, Lion King is just Hamlet. So
yeah. So I'm not against them. I feel like when I was watching this, just because now I've seen so many Cyrano retellings, I feel like they could there's more to this story that will just never be told.
Well, now it's just become like a trope, right?
Yeah. It's, I guess before we get to the movie, one quick aside. This did remind me of a Lizzie McGuire episode where they did a whole Cyrano thing, and they did change it up a little bit. So Miranda's doing a play with this guy, and she gets a crush on him, but, like, when they're not performing, she gets, like, all tongue-tied. So Lizzie is like, okay, I'll go hide in the bushes and we'll just do the whole deal. But then she falls out of the bushes and he sees her, and then he's like, oh, you like me.
Yeah, I remember that one.
You're Cyranoing me. And I was like, okay, that's like a fun twist on this thing that we've done. I just remembered that. But then in the end, the guy was a jerk, so then nobody dated him. Which was, like, kind of just how those things go. Okay, so Let It Shine. It starts with a good, so Cyrus, Tyler James Williams, is the choir. He's in charge of the choir, and I do not know if he has graduated high school or not, because they do specify it's summer vacation. But he gets grounded at one point. But nobody says how old anybody is, so I don't know if, like, this is, like, I don't know how old he is.
So why do you think he might have graduated?
Because, okay, so he has a double life he leads.
Okay.
By day, he's in charge of the choir, but by night, he sneaks off to this teen club off the streets. And his dad, who is the pastor of the church, really hates that club because he hates everything hip-hop and rap. He just does not.
Because that's not
like
Christian.
Yeah, no, like, they straight up say, like, that's the devil's music.
Oh,
and I was like,
yikes.
okay. Like, yeah, no, there's no tiptoeing around it in this movie. But one thing that was interesting that I thought was weird, so it opens up, and Cyrus has made, they did, what was the song? It's like Joyful Noise or something. I don't know the song exactly, but Cyrus has changed it so that like there's more music and like the choir is dancing around, and then immediately once like the guitar riff starts, even though like the band's been there, so I don't know why the dad was surprised that they started playing. But he's like looking flabbergasted. Everyone in the church is like vibing with it, and I was like, this seems like every other church song thing I've ever seen before. I don't know what the problem is, but he's like, this will not do kind of thing, and like his wife is in the thing and she's like dancing along, but at one point then like they do like a rap breakdown of the song kind of thing, and I was like, okay, for here now is the part where I guess you can start reacting, but like they're still saying, like they're still doing like him like things. But then, and like Cyrus is really pleased with himself, he's really proud of what he did, but the dad like looks at him and it's like, and we immediately go to the next scene where he's like, Cyrus, why do you want to embarrass me? And I was like he's like, you humiliated me, and all this stuff, and like I was so taken aback because it's such an intense, like, everybody liked it. Like, nobody was against it. No, it's not like people, like, walked out. So, I don't know. Like, I felt like that was an over-the-top reaction.
Maybe
but
it
Cyrus
was like,
sort of,
like you undermined my whatever.
Yeah, like, you know how I feel about it. And then, but then he was like, he tries to push back a little. He's like, well, that's why I was like, you know, religious praise and not like something inappropriate. It was like, you know, gospel or whatever. And he was like, and this is what he says, like, all rap is the devil's music stuff. And I was like, okay.
Even when you're praising Jesus, it's the devil. What a weird thing.
There's a line that comes up later where, well, yeah, I'll just say it now because it's on my mind. So when it comes out, when the dad finally finds out that he has a double job, he says, I don't care if Jesus told you to get that job himself. It was a test and you failed it.
Oh my gosh.
It's so weird that this, like, I will get into all of my issues with the fact that they decided that this movie needed to be super religious and gospel-y. But I do have opinions on that. That did not go unnoticed by me. But I'll move along. So then, after it's like, oh man, it's been a rough day at church or whatever. I don't know what like day it is. It's very confusing. But anyway, after some time's passed, he calls his friend Chris, and Chris is like, hey, are you coming to the thing? And it's like, he literally works there. And he's like the employee. There is no one. He doesn't have coworkers. He is the busboy. So probably Chris, but thanks for checking in. I'm glad we established that you exist. Like, I'm so mad already. But anyway, he goes to the thing, and we find out they do rap battles on like the stage, I guess. And Chris, his friend, played by Trevor Jackson, like is part of the dance crew. I guess they have like a hype dance. I don't know what this club is. I don't know what time of night it is. What is the curfew? Are they I don't know. That's why I feel it's important how old they are, because he stuck out of his house, which I get that he had to sneak out because his family's so religious. But this is like full of like their peers, but because it's supposed to keep teens off the street, I'm like, is this like a 16 to 18-year-old club? Or like, I don't get the impression they serve alcohol at this place, but like, what's the curfew? Can 16-year-olds just like be at a club till like 1 a.m.?
Well, maybe it's not even that late though.
I know, but I just want to know. They don't tell me.
Need a general time.
Yeah, like,
have a clock on the wall. Come on.
Because here's the thing. These are why I'm not sure. I think maybe the club, but then I don't know, like, how much money it makes, how it even stays running. I don't know what the hours are. But when he sneaks out, his dad is turning off the lights to go to sleep. So it's like, unless he's like a 7:30 sleeper, I would guess 9,
Yeah,
right?
I would say 9.
Yeah. Okay. Then they go to the club, and a lot of stuff happens that we'll have to break down. But then, and okay, he snuck out like it was Mission Impossible. But then after the club, him and Chris just walk through the front door to go watch TV at his place. I guess Dad's a heavy sleeper. Okay, back to the club. So we have our first musical number because it's like the rap battle, and it's setting it up where there's Lord of the Bling and he owns this other guy, and Lord of the Bling's whole persona is that he's like super wealthy and he's just really flashy, and Cyrus does not like him.
Okay.
And he was even saying like, oh, that guy's gonna be performing, I don't like that. Okay, so this whole scene really sets the groundwork for why I don't like Cyrus. He walks up to his friend, Chris, who is flirting with 2 girls. And they're like, oh, I'll go anywhere you go, Chris. And like, whatever. And then he's like, yeah, I'll take you there. I don't know, whatever he says to them. But then they walk away. And then Cyrus was like, while the conversation was going, he stands far away looking at them, and then he walks up and he's like, oh hey, Chris's invisible friend since kindergarten.
Okay.
And then Chris is like, oh, I'm sorry, did you want me to like introduce you to them? And he's like, no, they're not really my type. And he's like
So he's
I
just
was like, why?
snarky for no reason.
Yeah, he's just like really angry and like bitter, and then like because, like, Chris is even like, what, fine isn't your type? And he's like, I just want a girl who's about something. And I'm like, then why were you complaining? Because those girls are, like, you don't even know what they're about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
how do you even know? You can't even know that until you
said,
talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, other thing, like, I get what they're trying to set up, but, like, it would be really easy if he walked up and they, like, rolled their eyes and walked away.
Right.
And then he said that line. But I don't know why they did him like this, but whatever. So then after like the show, during the show, they do like a musical, like this is Cyrus singing, but this is just like in his head kind of song. So they don't do a lot of those, so it's a little weird. And I was like, does nobody hear this? Okay, I guess not. But because most of it's just like them performing like for audiences throughout the whole movie. So then he's talking about how he's got what it takes. He could leave the crowd amazed, but he already used up his break and all that stuff. So he's talking about how he's really shy, but he knows that if he could just have the chance to perform for them, they would just love his rap so much because he's so good. Okay. Then he's, the busboy. He's cleaning up tables after Lord of the Bling won. And then he's sitting with his friend, and Cyrus walks by and accidentally spills some water on his shoe. And Lord of the Bling is like, what are you, stupid? You're lucky you didn't do that when I was spitting my hot rhymes. And then Cyrus is like, your rhymes aren't that hot. And he's like, what? You're saying this to me? And so then Cyrus is like, you've got basic skill, but, you're not all that with the rhymes. And so then Lord of the Bling gets up on the stage and he's like, yo, everybody, this guy wants to step to me, and he challenges him. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I know this isn't going anywhere because it's way too early in the movie, but of course, he just runs away, and everybody is just looking really confused, except for, like, the people at his table, because it's like, did you challenge him, or, like, what happened? And, like, his best friend, like, walks with him, and he's like, why didn't you just, like, rap with him? Like, why didn't you just, like, call his bluff or whatever? I know, like, what you can do, kind of thing. And he gives him, like, a nice little pep talk. But he's not listening. And, like, throughout the movie, they dunk on Lord of the Bling, like everybody does. Like, and I'm thinking, like, okay, he keeps winning.
Yeah.
And, like, his persona, like, yeah, is a jerk, but I definitely get the impression that it's a persona, you know, which, like, lots of performers do.
But if you're a teenager, do you know that?
I guess not. I mean, but I guess I'll let it slide. I guess that if that's the issue with that, but then how old do you need to be to drive a cab?
I would think like 18.
Okay, because like I'll just spoil that for people. It turns out Lord of the Bling isn't all that. He is a cab driver during the day.
Okay.
But it seems like he's the same age as everybody else. It's very confusing. I do not know how old they're supposed to be. But, okay, so but Lord of the Bling, for one, wins. He's at least, even if you don't think he's all that, Cyrus, he's at least better than everybody else so far.
Right.
Also, you know why nobody knows that you're good at it? Because you don't do it.
Yeah. You can't complain, like, I'm better than that, and everybody should like me instead of him, if you don't ever do it.
Right, exactly. And then, like, the time came for you to put your money where your mouth is, and you just left. So, like, I don't really hear for what your skills are, because as far as I know, they're non-existent. But anyway, then, they go home. Well, they just walk through the front door. They're back at his house. They're watching TV, and they see Roxy. And she went, played by Coco Jones, she went to, like, elementary school with them. And they're like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. They're just, like, just gushing over her on TV. So, Roxy's on the screen, and she announces this competition they're doing.
Okay, hold on. Why do all of these movies, like, I understand it's based off the movie Roxanne, but all the main characters, or whatever, love interests don't have to be named Roxy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just really like the name, because, I mean...
Maybe they're like, see what we're doing?
Yeah, it's weird, because, like, Cyrus is not Cyrano.
Yeah.
And then #Roxy, I don't
even remember his name.
I don't remember his name. Yeah, and I don't remember what Boo Boo Stewart's name was, but I'm assuming not Chris. I don't know. You know, that's actually, you have a good point. You know, I didn't think, yeah, they do. I guess they just really, there aren't a lot of Roxys, I guess. So maybe that's why. But yeah, that's weird. Anyway. Okay, so she announces this competition, and, like, you make a hit song, and then you'll be their breakout star, basically. So Cyrus is like, okay, this is my chance, I'm gonna enter the competition. And then Chris is like, well, I'm entering the contest too, so you might have some competition. And so Cyrus is basically like, yeah, okay, bet. But just not phased. Then, you know, we see the montage of him making the song, and it's, like, catchy. He sends it in. Okay, I already explained my first issue with why I don't like him. This next decision. Okay. You're submitting this, you're mailing in your demo track, whatever, and you want to include a picture of yourself. What would you not include in that picture of yourself?
A picture of someone else.
Yeah, right? You think that'd be the one thing you wouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
And more than that, you wouldn't put someone else in the forefront of the picture and you in the background of the picture.
This
right?
kid really just has no self-esteem, does he?
Like, I mean, I don't even know, like, circle your face. Like, it's so weird, too, because then...
He's like, I really like this picture of me, even though I'm in the background. It's just such a good picture.
And, like, even so, like, you could fold it, maybe, circle your face.
Cut
I don't
it out,
know.
like anything.
Because you're sending it. you're not getting it back.
Right.
It does not matter. Ugh, it was very upsetting to me. I didn't like that he did that. But that the whole movie can't happen unless he makes this really dumb decision. Okay, so then the talk show hosts come to the off the street club, and they're like, oh, I guess quick mention of how his family life is going. Because he was working on a song so much, he ended up being late for church one day, and his dad goes, they spend so much time with, like, the pastor's sermons. It's really weird, especially since the moral is that, like, he's wrong.
Yeah.
So it's really, I don't know why he's like, because then he's like, we need to stop having, like, rappers and start having graduates. Our girls need to stop being vixens and start being valedictorians. And, like, just all this stuff he's just, like... And, like, we spend so much time. It's so awkward. Like, again, because, like, the whole... Like, the point is that it's wrong, but, like, that he's wrong, but... I don't need, like, 5 minutes of his mom shaking her head like, oh, he just doesn't get it. I do love Cyrus's mom, though. She's a real one, I guess, because she supports his dreams. Although, like, she doesn't really talk to her husband about this. Whatever. So, back to... off the street. So Cyrus is like bussing tables, and they go up to Chris and they're like, you won. And then Roxy comes up and Cyrus tries to talk to her, but he just, he does that thing where they just like won't stop talking. And he's like, you look like great and like all that, but like not all that, but I mean like some people would think you'd have, and I'm like, oh my goodness, please stop. And I love her reaction because she's just like, thanks. It's like, yeah, and she's always really sweet to him, which I'm like, that's nice. She's not, they make sure we know that Roxy's not all up in the clouds because of her fame or whatever. But then they're like, this guy's so real, he calls himself Truth. And then Chris is like, wait, what? But I'm not Truth. Like, what are they talking about? And then he's like, oh, wait, I'm Truth. I sent him a picture of both of us. They just got it wrong. And he's like, wait, so I didn't win anything? And he's like, yeah, I guess. But then Chris is like cool with it at first. He's like, okay, I'll just let him know. And then, in the middle of this, Roxy had to perform for everybody because they wanted her to perform. And I do not know where this stage came from because it was not the stage the club had before. It also turned into like very music video-y with like mirrors and stuff for an impromptu performance.
She had that stuff with her, of course.
Of course. I mean, yeah, I guess, because these backup dancers were all matching and came out of the woodwork, so yeah, I guess you're right.
I'm prepared.
He was ready to go. Yeah. Which, like, that's the diva life.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. I don't know. Okay. So then Chris goes to talk to Roxy, but Chris is a flirt. And Roxy already kind of thinks that the song was about her because it was about her. But Truth wrote it about her, kind of thing. And so she's already kind of like into him because of the song. And Chris is flirting with her and all of that. So then he asks Cyrus, like, what if we just sort of like kept this going so I could get close to Roxy? And of course Cyrus agrees because then he won't have to face any fears or anything.
And he's a pushover.
Yeah. And then, this is one thing that I feel is weird when movies do, because they, like, hired actors to play these roles. They have Cyrus say, like, several lines comparing himself to Chris, like, basically saying that, like, Chris is better looking than him. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, that's weird, because, like, you're a person who, like,
Yeah.
You're basically, like, you look like you, and he, like, looks like him, so you're, like, they're making you say that you're ugly, basically.
Yeah.
Which is, like, not the case, but, like, still, I think it's always weird when movies do that. Like, I was watching a Criminal Minds where, like, Garcia basically had to say that sort of thing about herself. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, I get why it happens, and I get that they're, like, that comes with the territory, but it's still, like, weird when you, like...
imagine, because they didn't write it about themselves, so it's these writers scrutinizing, like, oh, my ears are too big, and my whatever is too low, and it's like,
oh,
okay,
yeah.
now I feel like...
Yeah, no, that's true. Ugh, that's so weird. I don't like it. Okay. So then, okay, next order of business is they're going to do this ruse. Teacher from Invisible Sister is in it. He is the owner of Off the Street.
Oh.
So he's Cyrus's boss, and he talks to Cyrus through the whole thing. He just knows the truth. He knows this whole gig. Never gets involved.
Okay.
Like, he'll talk to Cyrus. He's like, you gotta come forward, but, like, he's no snitch. He, like, they can trust him. So now this is where, now it's time to complain about Roxy. Because in this, I think more so in this one than in #Roxy, they went out of their way to make Roxy dumber than she needed to be. And just when it comes to this ruse, it's like, so they're in, like, they work it out so that Cyrus can be his engineer.
Mm-hmm.
But really it's going to be him recording it in the studio, but, you know, like, no one will know because it's just the two of them in the studio. Roxy comes in, and they do some true to Cyrano stuff where, like, he has the headphones on, and Cyrus is in the other room hiding, so he's, like, whispering into the mic some stuff for him to say to her. Because she was like, freestyle for me, I want to know, like, I want to hear you freestyle, kind of thing. So they do that. And then Chris runs into the recording booth. And then, oh my gosh, okay. She says, come back out here, I want to see you. And now the lights are off in there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you have a boyfriend. Like, you know the outline of him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You know the outline of your boyfriend. Okay. Now, if someone... now, it's dark, so all you see is a shadow. All you see is, like, them thing. But now your boyfriend has shrunk like a foot. Sounds totally different. Do you still believe that that's your boyfriend?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay. We'll have to put that to practice one day. But then, because she's like, oh my gosh, but now you sound all different and weird. And he's like...
I have a cold.
like he doesn't even say that. He's just like, I can be more myself if I'm here than in front of you, because it's hard. And then he sings this whole song that has, like, backup vocals and, like, instrumentals. And it's like, wait, what?
Is this happening in real life?
Because, like, maybe it's the kind of thing where, like, he's, like, hyping it up more in his heart or something. I don't know. But she's obviously like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I'm like, this is another problem that I don't understand about how this works. Because, like, he raps.
Yeah.
So, like, rapping... like, your voice doesn't sound a whole lot different than when you're talking. So I don't know why.
Wouldn't she recognize his, like, rapping voice and his speaking voice are the same? or whatever.
You would, I mean, I'll give it a pass in the beginning because, like, she wasn't paying any attention to him at all, and maybe it was like you just deepen your voice or for some reason, I don't know. I'll try to suspend my disbelief for that, but like, no. You should just know. But fine. They pull that fast one on her. Okay. Next big thing we see, so Cyrus has been doing all this stuff, and he's been slacking at church again. At one point, his mom was, like, talking to the choir about, like, old hymns she knew and was just, like, singing for them because he was late. And he was like, okay, bye, Mom. You're embarrassing me. Go away. And they're like, hey, can we make it fun like we did for that one song? And he's like, no, we're just going to do the basics from now on. And they don't really, like, explore that anymore. Like, and I was like, okay, like, I guess that should have been addressed, sort of.
Yeah.
I guess. But, like, that's kind of it for that until, like, the very end. But, okay, now back to, he's, like, at the club, and he's like cleaning up and prepping for the beginning, and he has a talk with Invisible Teacher, and he has a talk with him, and he's like, oh, like, this is all about that Roxy girl, isn't it? Like, you really like her. And he's like, is it that obvious? And he's like, yeah, it is really obvious. Like, you should just tell her the truth, because, like, Truth is really talented and cool, and he's you. So, like, believe in yourself. And I'm like, okay, maybe he looked moved by the words that were said to him.
Yes.
So he leaves, and then Cyrus has his own moment where he's just, like, rapping by himself and, like, on the stage and just sort of getting it out of his system, his feelings and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Roxy had a date with Chris, who is not going to show up because he's a Chad.
Okay.
He just starts dating everybody but her. Sometimes her, but mostly just everybody else. But then, so she sees him, and she hears Cyrus rapping, and she's like, whoa, what's going on? You sound just like Chris. What is this? What's going on? How do you think he gets himself out of this jam?
Oh gosh. He's teaching me how to rap.
Okay, see, that's fun. No, he says, I like to lip sync, and not just...
He's practicing for his TikTok career.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not just his engineer, I'm also his #1 fan. And she's like, oh, okay, well, great. And this is what I'm like, see, this, I get, we've done the Cyrano story so many times. But you know what we haven't done? What if she just found out the truth right now? Yeah. We're like a little bit halfway in. I would love to see where this could go. Shit, like, well, like, yeah, I'm mad that you lied or whatever, but, like, also you're really talented still. Like, I wouldn't mind if we could have just seen that trajectory that the story could have taken. But we don't.
Like, you can do the Cyrano story up until this point and then go a different route with it. Yeah,
like, Cyrano wasn't a rapper. You're already making changes. Like, don't stop.
Just commit to it.
Yeah. So then she's like, well, I was supposed to meet Chris, but, I don't know. It looks like he forgot or something. And then Cyrus is like, well, I haven't eaten yet. So, like, maybe we could eat. And they go on this date, and they have a lovely time. They talk about music. Oh, okay, here's something I forgot. This is a minor detail, but it does add to my frustration here, too. Okay, so Chris has been, like, just agreeing to do stuff, even though he cannot perform without Cyrus, but he does not talk to Cyrus about any of this. He just agrees. Okay. And one of the things he agrees to do is a duet with Roxy.
Okay.
So, he convinces Cyrus to do it. So Cyrus starts making like the beats for it and like writing writing it basically for them to do. And then he's showing Roxy, and Roxy's like, "Oh wow, I like the song." And he says like a bunch of music jargon and ends with and then it'll be like the Beatles, all you need is love. And I'm like, maybe, I don't know. That's fine. But then Chris is like, yeah, that's exactly what I told you to do. And I was like, Chris, stop it. That is not fair. You can't take credit for everything here. Bad. But then Roxy is like, oh, well, it sounds great, and I love the Beatles. And he's like Chris is like, oh, yeah, me too. They're my favorite group, which I'm already like, oh, that's cute. Then she's like, what's your favorite album? Which I'm like, okay, Roxy, a little gatekeepy, but fine.
I don't think that's... I mean, was she trying to, like, catch him in a lie?
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
I'm just being me. I'm just being a jerk. No, she was just asked. She was just trying to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he says the greatest hits.
I think that's a fair answer because the Beatles had 1 million albums and 1 million songs. So
No, that's fair.
That's a fair answer.
That is a fair answer, but the way that they're playing it... I mean, I guess it's just weird. I feel like album is really... I guess that's why I feel like album is a little bit gatekeepy. Because they have so much.
Yeah.
Like, song... I would say song would be more. But then he couldn't... Because he keeps saying stuff like this, and then all the girls are just like, oh, you're too funny, Chris. Like, ha ha ha. And then, like, he never gets called on it. So... Greatest Hits was the wrong answer according to the movie.
Okay, well, then they should have chosen a different band than the Beatles.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why they chose the Beatles, because they wanted it to be something that younger audiences would still be familiar with, but would know that it's not like hip-hop, because, like, later, now back to their Cyrus and Roxy's not a date, he starts talking about all his musical influences, including, like, you know, the Beatles and opera, and, like, they talk about that, and, like, she's like, oh, wow, you, like, really know your music. And at one point he says, yeah, I just really like to be inspired by a lot of things when I rap. And she, like, looks at him like, what? And then he's like, I mean, right, for Chris. And I was like, oh my god, that's so annoying. Stop it. Like, quit it. Then, so, like, she's like, wow, you really know your music. But then she says, you know, it really feels like me and you have a lot more in common than me and Chris do. And he's like, that's hilarious. But, like, Roxy, I know, like, he's truth or whatever, but you could just, like, date Cyrus.
Yeah.
You're not betrothed.
Exactly.
You could just, like, that's another thing, too, that's kind of a little vague. I don't really know the status of Roxy's celebrity. Like, because when they're a niche play, like if they go to the club, you know, or different performances like that, everybody's like, oh my god, Roxy, I love you. But, like, she was just on this date with Cyrus. They walk through the park. They go to, like, a street battle that's just happening. And nobody really recognizes her. And there's no fuss at all. Like, even a little bit. But then later we see Chris, you know, Truth, go out and he gets swarmed by people. So I don't know, like, that's just something. I don't know her celebrity status. But either way, I don't know why she's getting so messed up over Chris. Because she's like, he stood me up on this date, and I have way more in common with this guy right here. But I'm still gonna go out with...
Yeah, that's weird.
Because, like, and this isn't, like, in, like, the friendzone kind of way. It's, like, there are several moments where she almost kisses Cyrus. Like, so it's not just that it's, like...
Does she think that they're, like, in an exclusive relationship? And so she's like, but then I'd have to break up with him. It'll be, like, a whole thing.
We don't get to... You know... maybe we don't really get to know Roxy that much. We only really see her through, like, the boy's perspective kind of thing.
Great.
So maybe that is the issue, because she does not seem to know. She definitely doesn't know about the other girls, because Chris doesn't want any of the girls to know about the other girls. All of them. So, but then at one point, they're filming, oh wait, okay, before I get to that, I don't know, so yeah, I don't know why she's forcing herself to make things work with Chris when he lets her down time and time again in this movie. Mm-hmm. But then they see this street battle happening. And this is one of my things where, like, okay, so I get that they're kind of doing a little bit of, like, I get 8 Mile Light vibes from a lot of the, like, rap battles that happen, and that's fine. Because it's, like, the DCOM version. Cool. But the one thing that, and this is just a personal thing, I don't know what other people who've seen Let It Shine would think, I never agree with the winners.
Okay.
So, like, in the beginning with Lord of the Blink, he had way more to say, a lot, like, he was more fun to watch, so I agree with him. Mm-hmm. Now we're in this street battle, and it's between Phantom and Revelation, and, like, they both were, like, on par, but, like, it sort of was just, like, because Revelation rapped second, he won.
Okay.
Because, like, it's, like, but I'm like, that's not fair. You gotta do, like, 2 rounds or something, right? Because, like, he said something and then he responded to those.
Yeah.
And then one-upped it. And so, yeah, obviously he wins by default, but, like,
you have to
no,
do, like,
because...
several rounds.
But no, they didn't do that.
They're like, we don't have time in this movie.
Yeah. Because it was also weird, because, like, we saw them, like, step up to each other. So it's not even like it's implied there were more rounds. So that's a little thing. Then Lord of the Blink shows up, and he's about to challenge Revelation, and he sees Cyrus, and he's like, oh, Busboy and Roxy, because he's mad that he didn't win the contest. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, well, but I heard you're performing at the Grand Slam, Roxy, so you get to hand me my trophy, and Busboy, you can polish it up for me, and, like, just stuff like that, and then Cyrus, like, runs away again, and Roxy was like, what was that? And then he was like, he's just a jerk, and then she's like, okay, so how are your parents?
Anyway.
Like, that was weird. Because she doesn't like him because he's a jerk and, like, he's kind of disrespectful, but she's also like, okay, whatever. Then he invites her to church.
Okay.
And
weird date.
I guess because he sets it up like, you know, like, my mom would love to see you, you know, like, we all grew up together kind of thing. He, like, presents it like that. So it makes sense. The other thing they've been talking about, this is one thing, I do like Cyrus and Roxy's relationship minus all the lies for one reason, because he really does support her a lot. There have been, like, lots of little moments where he always encourages her. So her thing is, like, kind of like Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj-esque sort of aesthetic.
Okay.
In that, like, a lot of auto-tune, lots of, like, flashy, you know, that whole thing, like, if you're gonna perform, like, you need to be, like, a fake thing, kind of,
yeah,
whatever. Like, that sort of, and, like, I'm not saying that about Nicki Minaj or Lady Gaga, but, like, that's kind of, like, the vibe they're going for, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then, but she doesn't like that, and, like, all the music critics are, like, say she, like, hides behind the auto-tune and she can't really sing and stuff. So she's insecure about these things. And when she finds out she's going to perform at Grand Slam, she's like, but they want, like, real artists. And Chris is like, oh, wow, they asked you to do it? And then Roxy's like already like insecure, and then Cyrus is like, no, you're gonna be great. And then she like smiles and she's like, oh yeah, maybe I will.
Aw.
And then when they're on their date thing, he's like, no, I can tell you can sing, because like I remember when we were like 8 and you sang in our church and you did this song and like you were like a little girl with a really big voice kind of thing. And she was like, you remember that? Like, I'm like, okay. Like, then fast forward to this date, and it was church date, and he gives her the mic, and he's like, yeah, I'll play your song. Like, remember, just go to church with it. You got a big voice and stuff. And so she was like, kind of like unsure if she was even like, she was like, maybe I shouldn't. But then he convinces her to do it. She sings this song, and it's great. They have this really cute little girl in the audience that she could just go sing to for a little bit. And I was like, she's really adorable. Thank you. Glad she got to...
Yeah, one of the crew members' daughters.
Maybe. She was just like watching. She was just like happy to be there. Then, but then, after this nice moment, Pastor Dad goes on stage and he's like, so as I look among the flock, I see a lot of like devout people. But then some of you forgot what you were raised with.
Jeez.
You can't. Like, he's, like, so pointed. He's like, you can't walk with the devil on Monday and then pray on Sunday or something like that. Like, he does, like, 3 of those. And Roxy just cries and leaves.
Oh.
Which,
you can't
like...
shame someone in front of your congregation. That's not Christian.
He also said, like, even the church's patience can run thin. I'm like... What if she...
What?
And I was like, your son invited her. Maybe she would have made it a regular thing again, but not anymore.
Yeah, maybe she's... You don't know. Maybe she's trying to get better. What the heck?
Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah, so then he goes home and like Cyrus's mom is like really mad at the dad, and she's like, he was like, I can't have her be there because of all the stuff I've said about hip hop. She'll make a fool out of me. And then his wife is like, you look like a fool anyway. You just like were so mean to a little girl. Like, what was that? And so then she has him sleep on the couch. And now it's time for the Truth music video to be done. And so they go... This is... So much stuff goes on here. Okay, so Chris, he's fully just drank the Kool-Aid. He thinks he's amazing now. He even got these 2 35-year-old twins as his entourage.
Ew.
I don't know how old they're supposed to be, but they look grown. They're his entourage. They wear matching outfits. And I've got to say, though, like, I mean, if you have an entourage, you should try for twins, I guess.
I guess so.
Just for this. I mean, they all look really good together.
Okay.
I'm not, like, as far as the style goes, I'm mad at it, but, like, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then he's like doing the performance, and Roxy's there to support, watch, and she invites him to, and like she says there's going to be this Middle Eastern art exhibit and it's only for today. Can we go after this? And he says... Also, Cyrus looks really sad because in the beginning, remember when those girls were not good enough for him because he wants a girl who's about something?
Yeah.
He wants a girl that he could take to the jazz museum kind of thing. So, her talking about this Middle Eastern museum thing is that he's got hard eyes. He's just like, oh my gosh, she's perfect. She's amazing. She's wonderful.
She's about something.
Anything. And then Chris is like, no... Let me know about the next art thing, though. There's going to be a 4-hour funniest home videos marathon, and I cannot pass that up.
4 hours?
There's going to be the dancing baby. So that's like 8 episodes. And he remembers specifically that the dancing baby is going to, like, show up in this block. like, I don't know, but I
Why are you
like
so into America's Funniest Home Videos?
It's compilations. Like,
This is
YouTube.
literally the age of YouTube where you can, and especially now because all AFV is anymore is just stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. Like, you could just Google Dancing Baby whenever you like. Like, I'm assuming the because I refuse to believe that anybody is like that dedicated
into
to
AFV.
Yeah. I'm assuming he just had another date or something and that was his cover.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like get really expressed. So then Cyrus, like while he's doing the lip sync thing, also the director of this music video is just so like sweet and not a director at all, because at one point he goes up to Chris and he's like, oh, the lip sync is a little off. Do you want me to go in tighter? And then he's like, no, keep it wide when I'm rapping and only go in tight when I'm not. And then the director's like, makes a weird face, like, that's weird, but like, okay. And I'm like, you're the director!
Yeah. What?
Do what you want! What are you talking to him
From
for?
this
He's
child.
like,
This
he's
child who's
literally-
been famous for like a week.
yeah, it was so weird. It was so bizarre. I did not get it. Anyway, so Cyrus is talking to Roxy. He's like, so everything cool with you and Chris? And she's like, yeah, no, never better. And that whole, like, was it even believable? But then her issue is not that, like, she's like, I don't know why it's just so much more easy for me to talk to you than it is to him. And then, like, then I was like, okay, so, like, maybe you're just not as into him as you thought. But then she says, he's just so real. Like, am I even worthy enough to be his girl?
Ew.
It was so weird. I did not like that. And then Cyrus,
confidence.
like, you're literally a celebrity. Anyway, then Cyrus is literally like, please tell me you're joking. I want to, like, throw him in my mouth. And I was like, okay, Cyrus, I like you a little bit for that, because that was the proper response to everything that just happened. But then the dad comes in because mom was like, you better apologize to Roxy for your bad behavior. And then he goes up to the director again. He's like, hey, I'm looking for Roxy. And then the director's like, oh yeah, sure thing. And why are you listening to everybody? You're the director. Stop helping people. You're not the concierge of this shoot. Stop it. Okay. Then, so he goes up to Roxy and he gives a good enough apology. I feel he's like, my righteousness was sinful. I'm very sorry.
Aww.
And then she's like, oh yeah, no, it's okay. But then he sees Cyrus and he's like, what are you doing here? And then Cyrus is like, well, and I was thinking like, okay, I don't know what you do or don't know about your son's life, but his best friend is a rapper now.
Yeah.
And this is his music video. Roxy, like, what if, like, maybe this is bad because, like, and I don't think I could have thought of this on the fly, but because I was watching the movie, I was like, Cyrus, you should have just told him, oh, I was just doing damage control for your mess. I wanted to make sure she was okay. I didn't think you were going to come. Let's go. Like, just play it off. But he doesn't do that. And then Invisible Teacher comes out and he's like, hey, we got to get these tables ready and, like, we got to start, like, clearing out stuff for the music video or whatever to be ready for tonight. And then the dad's like, wait, you work here? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, no, you don't. Not anymore. Let's go. And then Cyrus takes a stand and he says, no. He's counting on me, and I can't just leave him hanging, so I'm going to finish my shift. And then the dad leaves, and he's really angry, and he goes home, and then the mom is like, oh, you found out he works there? And then he's like, you knew? And she's like, look, we need to talk. And he just, like, grumbles and storms in the house. And then she just goes back to gardening, because she's like, okay, whatever, I'm over your mess.
I feel a divorce a brewing.
Somehow, no. Somehow they're fine.
Because it's a Disney Channel movie.
Yeah, just because of the DCOM. But I'm like, yeah, that's not great. Like, on one hand, like, I get where you're coming from because it's like you want to support your son and you know that your husband doesn't, but like that's really weird that you just knew about this whole other life.
It's definitely a thing that like I'm surprised she was so nonchalant when he found out.
Yeah, she wasn't like, she was just, because like I guess that's the thing, she wasn't like hiding it. That's the thing too, like it's sort of like vague. I feel like it's the kind of thing where she just sort of knew, and Cyrus knew that she knew, but they just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I think is what the implication was. So she was just like, oh yeah, like, you just weren't paying attention, but I was, so I knew, kind of thing. Then Cyrus comes home after his shift, or something. Well, because he's gonna go right back, so I don't, okay, whatever. Then, I guess his shift was over. Yeah, maybe. He goes home, and then the dad is like, you're not working there again, you're on punishment, and that's how it's gonna be. Like, that's final. And he's like, then Cyrus is like, look, I just, like, want to show you, like, I can, like, write music, and it's, like, what I'm passionate about, and, like, he's holding his notebook out to his dad. Dad's like, I don't want to hear it. And so then he runs in and he's sad. Cyrus runs in and he's sad. And then the dad, like, looks at, like, the mom and was like, what is that, like, rap music? And she was like, does it matter what genre it is? Your son was trying to share himself with you. What are you doing? and then he's like, And then Cyrus goes to... Then they sort of just have, like, this, like, montage of time passing. He hasn't been hanging out with Chris or Roxy for a while. He's sort of been watching as his song climbs up the charts, and he's sad. He also discovers that Lord of the Bling drives a cab during the day. And, yeah, that's basically that. Then Roxy stops by, and she asks if they could go on a walk together. And he goes on a walk with her, and she just wants to talk about Chris, because of course she does.
This is her whole personality now.
Yeah. And they go to the record shop, and they start listening to some stuff, and he's like, you should, like, do something with this. Like, you'd be really great. And she's like, no, like, the record would never let me. And he's like, you just gotta put yourself out there. And she's like, what about you, Mr. Lip Sync? Maybe you should turn the mic on, kind of thing. And then they, like, almost kiss, and then she's like, oh no, like, I'm gonna be late. Chris is taking me to a jazz museum, and that's, like, the coolest place he's ever taken me. And so then, that night, Cyrus goes to the club, and he's like, you don't have an original bone in your body. And I was like, now I know we cut, but there have been, like, hours between these moments. But then Cyrus, because then he's like, how was your date? And then Chris is like, cool it, because he's talking to two other girls. He's always talking to Roxy or two girls.
I guess Roxy is the equivalent of two girls.
Yeah, she's a real one, I guess. Or he's just like, normally I exclusively like threesomes, but you're famous, so I guess it's cool. Then they start fighting because he's like, and I just thought this was a funny line, because then he's like, because then Cyrus is like, you couldn't rap if I gave you some paper and some scotch tape. And I was like, that's silly. I like that. Yeah. That's funny. Anyway, so they start fighting. Invisible Teacher's like, look, you guys need to get going or don't come back at all till you get your act together. But the Grand Slam is tomorrow, and they're fighting, and like, it's going to be live, but they don't allow lip syncing.
Okay.
So they haven't even, like... So Chris was like, oh, I'm glad you're here. Like, before they started fighting, he was like, I'm glad you're here. We can start talking about, like, what we're going to do. But then Cyrus just came to fight. So they didn't work out a plan for the Grand Slam. And now it's... Because of how they left it, Chris doesn't even know if Cyrus is going to show up. But Then Cyrus is like, no, like, I couldn't actually do that to him because, like, if he gets exposed like that, he could never show his face anywhere again, and it'd be, like, worse than my life ever was. And I was like, your life wasn't that bad. You're like, just nobody noticed you because you didn't say anything.
Like, nobody ever notices me because I always stand in the background. Man.
Yeah, that's what I can't, like, too much of Cyrus's whole deal is, like, whining about things that are completely within his control. Like, so then he leaves and he's like, oh, also during the montage at one point, the dad took Cyrus's notebook and did start reading them. Okay. But Cyrus doesn't know that. So then day of the Grand Slam, he's leaving and his dad's there. And I was like, why are you, like, so good at predicting your son's movements? Because you were just, like, standing outside the front door waiting for him to emerge. It was really weird. But fine. Then he's like, okay, Dad, I know how you feel about the devil music or whatever, but I gotta go help my friend. And he's like, look, before you say another word, I've been reading your lyrics, and once I got past that they were rap lyrics, I realized they were really beautiful, and they talk about, like, sacrifice and devotion and caring for people and stuff like that, and I realized that it was wrong of me to put rap in one box, and I'm sorry. And then they hug, and the mom was, like, standing there, and she was like, oh, what a Hallmark moment. Okay, let's go. We're gonna watch you, son. And it's, like, cute. Because they're dressed in, like, their Sunday best for this rap battle, and I'm like, that's adorable. So now they're at the thing, and Chris, they show that he's been throwing up because he's so nervous because he has no idea what's going to go on. And I'm like, that's a fun touch, because I feel like a lot of times in DCOMs when stuff like this is going down, people seem, like, basically unfazed.
Yeah.
Except for, like, the fact that we know that they're probably not. But, like, he's, like, literally running back and forth out of the bathroom when it comes, like, when they get told that he's about to go on. So then Cyrus is like, look, I wasn't gonna leave you hanging, but we gotta just, like, come clean tonight and just, like, do it. And he's like, yeah, no, I got you. We're in this together again. And, like, they're friends. Lord of the Blink shows up, and Cyrus is, like, about to jump him. And then, then Chris is like, okay, look, I'm glad you're, like, really confident. Love the energy, but, like, let's not, like, roll back a little bit. Because, like, Cyrus is just like, I've got the love of my father and friendship. I am ready to go. He's like... It was just extra. Okay, but now... Okay, so Roxy also took a stand. They wanted her to wear this weird, like, bubble wrap, pink wig, metallic, silver, foot-high boots. It was a mess. And she's finally like, look, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to be myself, and that'll be fine. And then Cyrus is like, you look beautiful, like, great. And she's like, thanks. And then she goes out to perform. Now, all we know about Roxy, other than her undying love for Chris, is that she's really insecure, and, like, her performance at the Grand Slam is really important to her because this is what she feels is the only way she can prove that she's an actual artist and be taken seriously. That's all we know about Roxy. So tell me why Cyrus and Chris think it's a good idea to just ambush her in the middle of this performance, because they're supposed to duet together. So then Cyrus comes out, not Chris, and they start singing this song where he's apologizing to her for the lie, and she has to, like, make up lyrics in response, or they were already in the song, in which case, like, Roxy, you should not have been surprised, because these are very specific to this situation. Also, like, I love the audience that's just like, yeah, this is a great performance. Like, they really, like, they're acting. I don't know what's going on. I love this energy. It's like a play or something. But then, so they do that. And then it ends with him, like, getting on his knees. He's like, Roxy, I'm sorry. And she just, like, leaves. And the music plays out. And then he runs after her. And she's like, Roxy. And she was in her dressing room, but she comes out. She slaps him. And I was like, oh, my. It was, like, a really, like, I don't know who did the slap. It, like, there was, like, a clear cut between it, too. That was just kind of funny because, like, I guess they wanted it to look like it was a little bit of a hard slap. But then, like, they didn't want to actually slap him. And it was just, like, really weird how it all looked. But She slaps him. Because he was like... Because he said... Roxy, like, did you feel like the chemistry between us? Like, we were amazing. And then she slaps him. She's like, no, did you feel that? And then she's, like, really mad at him. And then he says, and then this is when I was like, really? Really? Did you forget how you got into this mess, Cyrus? Because he's like, look, like, I had to, like, because I couldn't help that you wanted the hot guy and the words all at the same time. It just hurt. And she's like, I didn't fall in love with him for his looks. It was because of your words. I just wanted someone real. And then she cries and leaves. And I was like, yeah, don't put this on her, Mr. I'm going to put a picture of two people and hope for the best. Like, she thought he was him. And then the guy comes out, like one of the production people or whatever. It's like, Roxy, are you going to like hand out the trophy? And she's like, no, have Truth do it. It's his night. And then... So it's all bittersweet for Truth because he shows himself, but then the one person he wanted to accept him hasn't. It's like so sad. But then he goes to give Bling his trophy because Lord of the Bling won. But then he's like, did you polish it for me? And then Cyrus is like, you know what? You don't even deserve this because you're not the best rapper here. And then they have a rap battle, which I'm already like, okay, but like you weren't in the competition. You're like an outside artist. Now. Right? Like, if Eminem was supposed to give me an award and then just took me to task, that's not fair. That's not okay. What? But anyway, they do this rap battle, and I'll play it for you after this, but like, I just kind of feel like Lord of the Bling had more of a stage presence, and like Cyrus's like whole thing was just kind of like, except for the big bomb drop that Lord of the Bling is a cab driver, he really didn't have all that much to stand on. It was like they're both good. I just feel like I enjoy Lord of the Bling's performances more because he takes up the stage, and I appreciate it. But anyway, he doesn't win because everyone's like, haha, you have a job.
Yeah, I know. That's what's weird. It's like all of these other... Cyrus has a job too, right? Like,
yeah.
I
guess the point is because he's like Lord of the Bling, so like you act like you have this money, but you really work. But like...
But you have to get money from somewhere.
Yeah, and he does spend his money on, like, designer things. But they say it's, like, fake early on, but we don't really know that it's, like, we don't know all that. But then, it's also weird, too, because, like, in 8 Mile, when he drops the bomb, it's because the guy, he's acting like he's really hard. And, like, he's like a thug, but really he's not a thug at all. He went to prep school. And like, that's a different type of persona.
Yeah.
And like, also in 8 Mile, he said a lot more about it than just... And like, he also like took shots at himself. Like, I don't need to explain why 8 Mile is good and why this wasn't as good. But that's what it is. So there's that. Then he wins. Cyrus gets the trophy, and Lord of the Bling just leaves, and we don't see him again. And then he's smiling, but then his eyes meet Roxy's, and she's just like, no. And so she leaves. And then he's sad, but then later, the next scene we see, Chris is running to her limo. And again, like, I don't know what her celebrity is, because you'd think it'd be harder for him to just get to her limo, but it wasn't. He's very accessible as far as celebrities go.
Well, maybe because he's a celebrity too, or was.
I guess. So then he's like, he apologizes. He's like, I'm sorry that I dated everybody, but Cyrus really does like you, and he's just, you just gotta, like, give him a chance, please. And so she does. And then they sing a song in the church, and they add rap, and everybody's happy.
So was she not mad that they were lying to her about who was actually singing or whatever? She was just mad about...
She was mad at first, but then he just needed to talk to her about it. And then she was basically, like, cool with it, because then she meets up with Cyrus, and then Cyrus apologizes, and she's just like, yeah, cool.
Okay. And
they're holding hands during the big final church number. And these are things that I couldn't help but notice. But then Chris, he's there too, and he does a dance. And at this point I realize, okay, so Roxy's been a celebrity and will continue to be. Mm-hmm. Cyrus is now Truth. Mm-hmm. And Chris is now nothing.
Yes.
And that is the natural order of things, I guess.
He's still gonna get all the girls, though, and that's what's important, I guess.
I mean, he had, if that's his priorities, that's fine. I feel like my issue with Chris was that he was kind of just, stringing Roxy along. Because at first he was I guess he just sort of changed his mind, because at first he was all about Roxy.
Yeah.
For 5 seconds, and then he was like, wait, but there are more girls that I could be dating. And then he just sort of forgot about her. But so I don't really mind his wanting to date all the girls. I just don't like his treatment of Roxy.
Yeah. Because
it seemed like all the other girls kind of knew what was going on. In a way that Roxy just didn't. Roxy thought they had a real relationship and they were going on dates and stuff,
Yeah.
So, there's that. That was Let It Shine. I'm not aware of any more Cyrano movies.
But we will find them, rest assured.
If we find them, we will discuss them, because that is
We're gonna have a whole
part of
playlist.
our brand.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this was fun. Thank you for letting me rant about this really not that bad DCOM, but I had a lot of feelings about it. And thank you guys for listening, and remember to comment, like, and subscribe, because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.